What's going on, guys, and welcome back. I'm going to do this in a different order this time. We're going to give you the chart first, because when we start with the deck profile, I don't know how many people stick around till the end. So 20 match testing Ruby Amethyst. If you just want the deck list, the link is always down below. If you want your chance at winning a case of set 7 to be released in March of 2025, all you have to do is subscribe. Once we hit 5,500 subscribers, if we can do it before that March release, we will do set 7. If our growth on the channel stagnates a bit and we don't quite get it, well, when we do get it, we will do that case giveaway. It's gonna happen at some point or another. Let's try to do it before release weekend, because, well, everyone wants to get stuff sooner. Without further ado, 20 match testing Ruby Amethyst. What were my results and what are my thoughts on this deck moving forward? I played 5 Popsicle decks and I beat 5 Popsicle decks. I played 4 Ruby Amethyst mirror matches. I won 3 out of the 4. I actually like the Ruby Amethyst mirror. I played it pretty often at our locals. For a while there wasn't necessarily many of us, but it seemed like we kept getting paired up with each other. Steel Song I only played against twice and I split them, and Emerald Steel Discard I played twice and won both. Tempo, aggro, whatever Amethyst Emerald we're going, this was a bit more aggressive, but it's still kind of tempo-esque. I did lose my one match against that. I beat Blue Steel, like the traditional Blue Steel. And I also beat Blue Steel Hero Aggro. That one was an interesting deck, but we pulled it out. Purple Steel, I did drop my one game to. Emerald Sapphire we beat, and Blurple and Ruby Fasa also were wins in our category. So we went 16-4 overall, really well, 80% win rate. I'm pretty happy with that. I've told you guys, I put these lists together and I go test them, and if I can't hit at least 70% over 20 matches, I scrap all that, change the list, and I go start over. So that's where we're at, but we were able to do it. For reference, I was doing an Emerald Sapphire build, and maybe I need a second Lorcanatcg account for my more experimental things, because I was actually getting pretty good on ranked, and Emerald Sapphire, I tanked myself really hard. I think I went 0-6 with the deck, and I just ended up scrapping it because I'm like, okay, something major has to change here. Why do we do it? Well, I like ranked testing. It gives you the best idea on how good a deck is. And at the end of the day, the rank ladder's the rank ladder. It's cool to be up there, but it's not the end-all be-all. On the play, I was 8-3. I had 11 matches on the play. I had 9 matches on the draw, and I actually went 8-1. At one point, I was 7-0 on the draw. I'm like, am I going to finish undefeated on the draw? This is insane. But Ruby Amethyst is consistent, it's grindy, and it has all kinds of tools for going second and breaking boards, so it's not the hugest surprise ever. However, kind of like the last video when we did this, I think the game percentage gives a better representation, whereas the match percentage is a little off. And if you see the games on the draw, I went 16-12. And how is that possible when I won so many matches on the draw? Well, a lot of my draws where I was, or my matches where I was on the draw, went to game 3, and I lost game 1 in a lot of them. So that's where my game losses come from. But then I reverse swapped them, winning game 2 and then game 3 on the draw once again. So that's kind of where that number is. So I think that's a better representation overall. What would that be? A 4-3 ratio, 17%, 43%. No, I'd be over 57% roughly. So I won about 57% of my games on the draw with the deck. I think that's a way more accurate number than 89%. So just under 60% win rate on the draw. And on the play, though, my game win percentage, I was 19-5. So almost a, what would that be? 20 would be a 4-1 ratio. So almost 80% win rate on the play with Ruby Amethyst. I think that number's inflated. I think I was just doing really well. I don't think really many decks are going to have, across the spectrum of decks, that high of a win percentage accurately. 20 is a small sample size. And sometimes you're just on a roll. Sometimes things are just falling in place. And I think that was one of those times. I don't want to inflate that number and say, you're going to win 80% of your time on the play. That it's probably not going to happen all the time. But it can. It definitely can. So let's go ahead then and talk about some matchups. And then lastly, we will get to the overall Decklist. The first one, Popsicle. So this is a matchup where you want to try to be a bit more aggressive. You want to try to hit like Flynn on 2, Sisu on 3. I'm not playing Queen's Castle any longer. I know. I've said it so many times. I won't take the card out, won't take the card out, won't take the card out, and I took the card out. Other things that you could potentially keep. I don't know if I'd necessarily keep like Brawl or the other 3-cost Sisu, especially being uninkable. Spoiler alerts. Just because they're not really what you're trying to do into this matchup. However, they are actually good cards into the matchup, because if you can hit that Hiram, obviously they'll get the 2 draw when they play it initially, but then if you can cut that off, if they don't have another way to get back into their draw engine, you can really just suffocate their deck and win quickly. Otherwise, things like Chernobog's Followers on 1, you can keep it for a couple turns, don't necessarily pop it the very first chance you get. They usually won't get early character present, so you can quest like 2 or 3 turns and then get the pop and draw. Otherwise, your Flynn, your Sisu, then coming back with something like a Genie even, just really forcing their hand as to what they get rid of with those Medusas, stuff like that. Be leery though of big Sisu, like big Sisu, and a lot of time they will play the Daring Visitor Sisu and then shift into big Sisu, so keep an eye on that, because Ice Block obviously is going to make things even more difficult, where your 2-cost characters or your 2-strength characters all of a sudden become 1 strength. Sisu comes down, gets rid of them, and watch that 6 ink number, because that big Sisu shift, so trying to get into multiple characters of 3+ strength so that their Ice Block can't just get your board wiped when big Sisu drops down. So, I thought I clicked the right button. Steel Song. I think Popsicle is a favorable matchup, by the way. Not saying you're going to win 100% like I did in this testing session, but I think that the matchup is favorable. Steel Song, I think it's really close to 50-50. Maybe some other players want to correct me on that, but from my experience, at least, I think it's a very who's on the play, and you probably have a slight advantage. But at the end of the day, if depending how you hit your cards, that can change a lot. Depending how their whole new world goes. Sometimes I keep a little less than ideal hands, because it's like I know my opponent, like locally, like tendencies. It's like I know he mulligans hard trying to get that whole new world, so I don't want to lose all my good cards. I'm going to keep a bad hand, hope he whole new worlds me into a good hand, and just see how that works out. And actually, sometimes it does work out pretty well. Things to do versus Steel Song, though. I like Diablo as my 1-drop, because Cinderella Sing Storm Rage On just gets you so far behind right away. Diablo at least replaces itself, draws you a card, so then you're not just falling that far behind. You get to at least replace it, and you get some type of value out of it in the process. Brawl takes care of Ariel, takes care of Rapunzel. It takes care of a few threats that you might have to worry about. Just to get them off the board, so you don't have to deal with them. Keeping their singers down, control the board state, try to force them to hard cast their songs. So things like Madam Mim Fox with the Rush, especially being able to come down and take out boards. Even once you get to 4 ink, obviously slap a 1 cost down, play your Fox, bounce a 1 cost, and then take out their Ariel, their 5 singer, going after the singers, like I said. Looking out for things like Lawrence, Pluto seeing play there too. They're just big bodied characters that force you to crash into them and usually lose your character too, because they know that's how you beat them, so they want to stop you from beating them. Mirror matches can be very difficult. They're intense. They're who can maintain their resources better. I'm not saying mulligan for these cards, by the way. I'm just trying to show cards to highlight and talk about, I guess is a good way. Sisu applies a ton of pressure into the mirror match. I think Flynn, lots of players, especially on the play, even in the mirror match, they focus on Flynn too much, and they try to build their play around Flynn, like get the Sisu to stick, get the Maui to stick, and they're more focused on winning through Flynn than they are winning through card resource and card advantage. And I think that's truly the better way to play, especially because like we got Brawl takes care of Flynn super easy if you want to. And I've thrown Flynn down and had people brawl, and I'm like, okay, 2 turns later, Genie, do you have another brawl? Because Genie's a far bigger threat than Frenemy is, and that's why I also highlight Elsa here, because especially if you're on the play, if you hit Genie, they hit Genie, you come back with Elsa, Elsa and Genie takes out their Genie. I could also highlight Merlin Crab here, because Merlin Crab being able to boost any of your evasives. Are you playing Tinkerbell Fast Flyer or Surfer Mini? Both of them could be sleepy tech cards, by the way, and I'm willing to bet as the format goes on, somebody's going to put them in and see success with it, because they're 1/3 multi-questing evasive threats, so they help into trying to win via an aggro strategy, and they also work really well with Crab to one-shot, say, a Genie and survive it, while also having that multiple lore threatening ability. So they haven't seen much play yet, but keep an eye out for them, because I think that they might by the end of the format. The next deck we're going to kind of talk about, Purple Steel. I think this is unfavorable. I'm not going to lie. Maybe I'm just playing this one completely wrong, but in the 20 testing here, and I had some other testing and whatnot too, and I'm not going to say it's unwinnable. I don't think any matchup ever is truly unwinnable, but I think this is one of your unfavorable matchups into the top tier of the meta. I think Popsicle's favorable. The mirror matches, obviously, someone's got to win it, or you don't. There are draws. Steel Song, I think, is close to 50-50. Some of the other ones, I think you're favored. This is the one I think you're not favored in. Overall, I have Ruby Amethyst as my second best deck. I just did a top 5 deck with Decklist. If you want to go check that video out, see what my thoughts are. You actually got a sneak peek at the Decklist we're going to go over today, too. So, Purple Steel, trying to... Man, this one's hard because they can get away from you so quickly. Your bouncers are nice for the high strength and being able to try to control the board state, but they have a lot of characters with 3 strength in their own right, and then you're losing your bouncers, you're bouncing your own cards, you kind of slow your own tempo sometimes. I like Sisu a lot because her 4 willpower, and in that early game your opponent still has a lot of cards in hand, so she can usually take out a couple threats as opposed to just 1 because of 3 willpower. In addition to that, Merlin Crab going to be very strong here, especially boosting your evasives to take out Genies early on. That's why I have Brawl here too. Brawl taking out Genie almost specifically. There's not a whole lot of threats that have less than 3 strength in the deck, but Brawl being one of them to take out those Genies. Genie is just probably the most meta impacting card in this format, bar none. I also have a top 10 meta impacting cards this format. Genie's number 1. If you want to go check that out, you can see the other 9. Discard. I think discard's pretty favorable. I think we got more good cards that are new. And overall, I think discard didn't improve enough. I do have this type of video for discard, by the way, 175%. So, I mean, it can compete. But versus Ruby Amethyst, I played 8 of them, by the way, out of those 20 matchups, and I think Ruby Amethyst has the edge, and I'm saying that with pretty confidence, I guess, having played this matchup 10 times out of my 40 tests between the 2 decks, so 25% of my testing was this matchup. Brawl is really big here. Elsa's really good here. Genie's really good here. You have so many things like Chernobyls, Diablo, followers that can all get you a draw, because obviously versus discard you want to keep your card resources up. Friends on the other side. We already mentioned Genie being good here, but Genie also draws you. Rabbit draws. You have so many good threats here. And if you're the discard player, I don't care if their board is empty. If they have 3 or 4 ink, do not quest with your Prince John. It is so easy to slap a 1-drop down, play a fox, take out your Prince John. Don't do it. If they only have 2 ink for some reason, sure, go for it if they have no board presence, because they won't have enough to get Fox and a bounce target. If they have 3 or 4, though, as the discard player, don't do it. I've seen too many people do it, and it just does not work out in your favor. Once you get to that late game, though, too, I think Ruby Amethyst just runs away with it. If they can't discard your hand down before you get to, like, 6 ink for sure. If you hit 7, you're really in that sweet spot, and if you hit 8, it is game over at that point. I don't care where it's at. We got one more matchup. This one's a bit of a broad one. It's just aggro in general, not necessarily Amethyst Emerald, but any aggro outside of Purple Steel. So this can be pretty much any other aggro. And when I say any, if you come up with one that you're like, oh, what about this deck? Okay, maybe it's not any, but the general idea of aggro. Putting a Flynn down can apply a lot of pressure to the aggro one, because if you have stronger characters and you're getting a free 3 lore each turn while you're challenging their characters, that applies a unique aspect to them where they have to find a way to deal with your Flynn. Brawl taking out those low strength threats, because a lot of the high questing cards are low strength threats. Merfolks, you don't have to discard if you hit it with a Brawl. Again, hitting Brawl on Genie, brawling on a Daisy Duck, because the 4 willpower outside a Fox takes multiple characters to deal with it. So these type of cards are going to be really good here. Just get to that long game, like play the low game, try to keep them in that like 10 ink range, 12 ink if you can by the time you get to 6-7 ink, and then you just run away with it. Slap a prep down, then you throw down like Tremaine, bounce the Tremaine back, just keep that rolling. Just control the board state at that point, and you can usually coast out a win. So, what is the deck list? That's what we're all here to see, right? That's what we all want to know, right? I really don't know if it is, but without further ado, we're still going to go over it. This video here will update to the new one. $209 is the price point of the deck. That's actually not terrible. 15 uninkable cards as well, so about 25% of the deck. On one, I was playing Followers and Diablo. I've said it quite a few times now. I think that Broom is the worst one of the 3, but it is still a good card. If you're not needing to play that many cards on one, though, I like Followers and Diablo, especially because Steel Song. Like, Diablo is the best one drop into Steel Song. Chernobog, though, is the best of the 3, bar none. The bounce package is still the bounce package. I highly recommend playing it. Merlin Crab, I like seeing it in so many matchups because Amethyst is everywhere, Genie is everywhere, so being able to boost a Sisu to take it out, to boost your own Genie to take it out, to boost an Elsa to take it out. So many reasons to play Crab, it is just insane. And if you run into a location, guess what? Merlin Crab boosting Snake, Fox, Sisu sometimes, Goat. So many cards, it can help you take out a location with just one character. In addition to that, Merlin Crab boost a Diablo, take out a threat, and draw a card is a nice little play. So I do really think Crab should be played at least 3 in this deck. This was kind of one of my techs. I noticed I was suffering versus some more faster paced decks. I wish it hit more in the purple steel matchup, but nonetheless, I do like the one-off Sisu, giving us 5 little Sisus, and we have a big Sisu that we can shift into later. Our 4 drops, I really like the 4-4-2 ratio here. I think Rabbit's still too good to cut. Like, so many times when you're getting to that grind game and you're digging for a card, Rabbit, bounce, Rabbit, drawing 2 cards just like that, and knowing you get to slap it down again next turn, draw a 3rd card, sometimes that's just better overall than the Genie is. Obviously, same scenario, Genie nets you 2 cards, so it's only 1 card less there, but each time you bounce it, each time it leaves the field, if you know you're going to prep your opponent in a turn or 2, putting down things like Rabbit and Goat that you know are going to get you more, Diablo even, get you advantage after you prep yourself, are just very helpful. Elsa, I think as long as Genie's this dominant in the format, Elsa's going to be a 4 of as well. 3 Mauis, I saw it, I'm like, you know, I tried 3 last format, didn't really care for it, went back to 4, but I give it another go, and I do think that 3 Mauis is the nice number. 2 Tremaines, I can't say this enough. Like, I've seen most play 1 Tremaine. I think 2 is correct. So many times I've played the 1, I lost the 1 because it got discarded. I'm like, oh, I really could use Tremaine here. So many times. Like, I could use the 2nd Tremaine more than the 3rd Medusa so many times, so that's why we ended up on a 2-2 split. Like I said, the one big Sisu. The downside with the deck is so many of your uninkable cards are high cost. It's not like other decks where they're low cost and you could throw them down on board really easily. This is a deck where they can get stuck in your hand. So just the one big Sisu. 3 Brawls. I also have the 1 Sisu here to help with the aggro matchup, so we're still playing 4 answers in there. Just one of the cards that we had to cut to fit those crabs in, because I was playing Castle and no little Sisu and no crabs, and I cut the Brawl and we made the few changes. The 1 big Sisu kind of replaces that 4th B prep. Otherwise, Friends on the other side I think is pretty mandatory in the deck. Overall, let me know what you guys think. Do you like this format? Do you like this style video? Is it helpful to see it this way, to see the results, to talk about some matchups, and then to go over the deck list? And like I said, saving the deck list for the end this time, because I don't know how many people truly stuck around last time through the deck list, because that's the boring part of the video. Actually, the whole video could be boring. I don't know. Let me know down below. All advice is good advice, and I try to take it to heart and make improvements. But yeah, that's Ruby Amethyst, guys. Like I said, I have Emerald Steel discard done, ready to go, and currently testing a couple other decks. So thank you guys for watching. Until next time, like, share, and subscribe for the giveaway. 5,500 subscribers. We've done it in a short period of time before, so I know we can do it again. Thanks for watching, guys.